All right, cool cats and kittens. I just watched a friend of mine go live on Facebook, and he didn't open up that way. He missed his opportunity, and I was like, I am not going to miss my opportunity. And you probably, if you're watching this on my social media, then I hope that you know who I am, and I would expect that you probably know who Officer Daniels is, but you might not have found out who Believing Bruce is yet. So welcome, Bruce, to
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much.
Zoom phone call. And guys, why should you know Bruce? You should know him because he has a video on YouTube called Body Language. Did Tiger King Carole Baskins kill her husband? And it has just shy of 300,000 views as I was hopping into this call here. So people are definitely interested in Tiger King, especially the country music album. But leaving that aside, we have the issue of I don't know, someone being dead and trying to figure out who did that, and that seems to be taking the quarantined world by storm. I would rather spend my time asking Daniels truth questions and having Bruce tell me if he's being honest or not, because I have a feeling if I asked Officer Daniels if I was actually funnier than him, he would say no, but his body language would scream and shout, oh, yes, he definitely is.
I forgot. I got to wear these around Bruce at all times. You're never going to figure me out, Bruce.
Can't do it. It's like World Poker Tour, Believing Bruce edition. All right, guys, let's get into it. Tiger King, I've seen it. You've seen it. You've seen it. We've all seen it. Like, I wonder how many views it has. It's #1 trending on Netflix for, like, I don't know, since I've been looking 2 weeks. It's been staying at the #1 spot. So we're on it right now. Bruce, why don't you kind of like recap what drew your attention to the Tiger King thing and what your like initial impressions were watching the series, and kind of like what led you to make your video in the first place?
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much. Well, first of all, guys, it's great to be here. I get a lot of invites onto the sort of UK scene, but this is my first one in the States, so I'm really looking forward to this. Love working with the guys in America. I used to be in the Royal Air Force, so I spent a lot of time out in Afghanistan and Iraq with the US forces, both ladies and gentlemen, and there's always an energy that the States people bring that you sort of don't get in the UK. So like my anticipation levels are really high for something like this. So yeah, really looking forward. So Tiger King, yes, it has. It's such an evocative subject, Like you say, the quarantine world has just jumped on this, and the energy that it brings. So I've been doing body language now on YouTube for around about a year, mainly in the UK on different genres, so sports stars, athletes, movie stars, in boxing, sort of one of the big one. MMA, you've got Dana White, the UFC is some of the stuff that I've done in the States. And it's been going quite well. Started to,
Can you tell that Dana White really, really likes Conor McGregor? No
yeah. I don't think you need to be a body language specialist to sort of figure that one out. But yeah. So about a week, it was around about a week and a half ago, I started receiving messages via Twitter and Instagram from my followers, from my subscribers, saying, Believing Bruce, you've got to have a look at this Tiger King. There is a lady on there and the world is dying to know, did she kill her husband or not? So, and guys, I admit, I went on to the sort of Tiger King and I saw Joe Exotic's haircut and I thought, I'm just not going to be interested in this. I don't, this is not for me, all right? This is not for me. So
you're getting to look at the real America, Bruce. That's the real America.
So the messages continue to flood in. And then one guy I know, a guy from the UK called True Geordie, he's got a big YouTube channel, about 2 million subscribers. He's actually done something with Doc Antle. They've had like a sort of video call that I'm really looking forward to seeing. He's like, Bruce, you've got to have a look at this. This is right up your street. This is going to be huge. I thought, okay, I've got a big YouTuber here who I've got a really good relationship with. So there must be something to this, program if this guy's messaging me. So I went on and I had a look and I was hooked. I was absolutely hooked from the first 10 minutes. I thought, this is great. This is fantastic. So I started watching it, and I think I'd only watched maybe the first two episodes. And I asked him, like, tell me what episode this is for, where Carole has this narrative, these questions that are being asked of her around about her husband's disappearance. I was told it's episode 3. So when I had a look at episode 3, and obviously I started educating myself around Tiger King. Is it popular? Is it trending? And I think it was Kim Kardashian from the States had said something about Carole Baskin that it just went stratospheric and everybody had an opinion. So the look here, let's actually do a fair and balanced assessment based on body language about, do I think Carole has had, because all the evidence at this moment legally, and we must acknowledge this, and obviously your guys' background will probably understand this more than me, all the evidence is pointed out to that she hasn't, or, they couldn't convict her of anything because there just wasn't anything there. That's the legal standard. But I thought, well, from a body language perspective, because this is where you see the clues, this is where you see the tells, this is where you see the autonomous signals that start coming from the body. What language is Carole's body giving up when she's talking about this subject, about her husband disappearing? So when I watched episode 3, I was like, oh my Lord, there is so much here to do, that there's so much to focus on, there's so much he's given away, there's like so many contradictions, there's the amount of data that was just coming from a body, even though the actual time Carole was on camera, where you could actually analyze it, was very small. In that small time frame, there was just so much to do. So I thought, right, I'm going to lean in. I'm 100% doing this. That is what I'm doing. And then that's where the actual idea from the video came from. And that's where, as you said, we've nearly got 300,000 views now. I'm getting messages from all over the globe, being contacted by media companies, newspapers, radio stations. Beautifully, you two guys are the top of the tree. I'm really looking forward to working with you two guys here now. Well, and obviously that's why I'm here. You guys have seen the video. You're kind enough just to put it out on your social media. I've had a number of, questions from, I believe it's some of your fans who connected with me. So yeah, I'm really excited to answer all your fans and followers' questions tonight, guys.
Yeah, for
Awesome.
sure. I don't think that we need to rehash, I guess, what your video is. Like, I know what's in there. Justin knows what's in there. So yeah, we want our people, our fans, followers, whoever views this video, go and watch Bruce's video that we're talking about. That way you sort of like get up to speed. And then whether you listen to the questions and answers we do now, or whether you go back, watch that, then come back and watch this, however you do it, but go back there, because we just don't want to just recreate his video here and all the content here. We want to kind of get to some of your questions and answers. So Daniels, what personal questions do you have for Bruce? Like not the ones that your listeners asked, or the listeners, your viewers, followers, whatever asked, but what would you ask him?
Well, there's one that pertains to Carole. I know we want to stay on the Carole topic, and it connects to Carole, but it's kind of more of the alligator and studio arson, and Joe's body language, and if he had anything to do with it, or his producer or Carole. If there was any deceitfulness with Joe or his producer or Carole. I don't even think they talked to Carole about the fire. I think maybe it was her husband.
No, from the Netflix video, the episode, they didn't seem to talk to Carole. Or from my recollection, Justin, Carole wasn't on camera being asked directly, did you have anything to do with that?
Right.
That's from my recollection. But it was the only narrative that I picked up that I thought was interesting, that engaged my curiosity, was the almost like sort of nonchalant, nil emotion way Joe was explaining. It was almost a performance where he was offering about, somebody's done this, they've killed the alligators. But where there was some direct correlation to Joe, because Joe, let's get this straight, Joe, Carole, and Doc Antle have got so many similar characteristics, it's quite unnerving. Yeah, it is quite unnerving.
They're all freaking crazy to me. They're all nuts.
So when you're looking at the way Joe was speaking about the alligators, because, you could forgive him for trying to pull on the heartstrings, for trying to create the story, the alligators, but he spoke about the alligators with as much emotion as Carole speaks about him as a husband. There was just none there. Right? There was just none. And again, it seemed to be a performance. It seemed to be an act. It seemed to be, as if Joe had already, again, this is just my opinion, of the limited amount of data that we had. It just seemed to flow like to step by step. It wasn't if he was like really annoyed or really distressed or angry. He was actually quite accepting of the situation. And his emotional baseline never sort of wavered, where that would be uncommon. Yeah, let's just say, like, we don't know if he's lying or not. We don't know if he had anything to do with it. But definitely the way he spoke about it, definitely the language and the cadence and the inflection of the words that he used as he was explaining it to the camera crew was uncommon, because in there you'd be right to feel frustrated. You'd be, acknowledged to be aggrieved. Anger, sort of would be present. But that wasn't at a level that would be expected of an average person. So just based on that, at that particular time, that's where I would have loved to have cranked the questions on Joe, because he wasn't displaying a behavior that's usually associated with a situation like that.
Gotcha. Okay. What about you, Mike?
My big question is, if it wasn't already crazy enough, like, so when I first heard this, I was sitting here in this chair and my wife is watching this show, and it literally was like just suggested, like, hey, this is trending on Netflix, so let's just watch this, right? So I hear her watching the show, and then I keep hearing the increased amount of, no, you got to be kidding me. No, you've got to be kidding me. No, this can't be real. Is this real? Is this real? Is this a show, or is this a documentary? And it keeps building. And so I sit down and I'm like, what are you talking about? So she's like, you've just got to see this for yourself. I can't even explain what's happening here. And so I think this is about big cats, but really it's not at all. But you all of a sudden I'm like, wait a second. How many husbands does he have? Like, what are they all three getting married right now? What? Why are they all smoking meth? What is happening? And my question to you is, do you pick up anything in this story when the husbands end up basically saying, we weren't even gay, we just wanted meth? Were they serious or what? Where was their head in that? Do you believe them that that's all it was about for them, was just getting more meth?
So I will try to be specific with my answer here, if that's okay, gents. And what you will notice, again, let's look at all three. Let's look at all three of the, Doc Antle, Joe, and Carole. Because in relation to the people who now this is very narcissistic type qualities. It's very, what I would call a high control individual, is they look to connect with and control vulnerable individuals. There's some need to be it's called psychosocial, to be part of a team. I need to be accepted. So it's no different from you guys if you're at work or I'm at work and I've got a boss. There's a part of me that wants to please my boss, because if I am part of the team and they respect me, I'm more likely to get that promotion. I'm more likely to self-preserve, to keep the money coming in, to pay for the mortgage, to pay for the food on the table for the kids, etc., etc. So all three, Doc Antle, Joe, and Carole, really play on this. And you'll notice with Doc Antle, right, let's just put this on the table. With Doc Antle, he's got a criteria of people who want to work for him from one of his ex-wives or partners who was part of the documentary. But ideally, he would like them to be virgins. He likes them to be young. And then there's a certain criteria that he ticks off, like, yes, the virgins, yes, they're young, yes, they'll work 365 days of the year, yes, they won't take any holidays. Okay, you can come and stroke my tiger, or whatever it is.
I'm going to name the video that you can come and stroke my tiger.
but that's the lure, and they all use this sort of lure. And then what you've got with Carole Baskin, again, what Carole's got is a very hierarchical, psychological type process going on. So very akin to karate or other martial arts, where you start with a white belt, and then there's always something else to achieve, towards the black belt, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, whatever it is that, there's a next level to achieve. And you see that with Carole. So for some reason, people just want to come to stroke the tiger. And to do that, they are prepared to work for free. Yeah, so she's taken a more palatable approach to those vulnerable individuals. They've got a need, but they want to be involved with it. And Carole brings out the actual, these T-shirts. So they get a green T-shirt, and then if they've been there a few more years, they get a red T-shirt. But there's different colour T-shirts, just like karate belts. So she takes advantage of people. And then you've got Joe Exotic. All right. Now, just look at the eclectic, interesting bunch. Like, if you wanted to create a movie, you would probably be sourcing, for 10 years to get that cast together.
And if you wanted a full mouth of teeth, you would collect them all together, and you would have a mouth full of teeth. One.
Just there. So Joe knows exactly what he's doing. He preys on the vulnerable, people who are very much down on their luck. They've almost got no option. Again, it was in the episode, that's what the data says, that he would go with people, he would notice somebody who's been on a bench for the past 2 days and they haven't moved. He would say, hey, do you want to come and work for me? So when you're looking at Joe's partners or husbands, they all have come from that type of situation where they've been rock bottom, they don't know where to go, they don't know what to do. They are very, very vulnerable, and therefore, belief is a powerful thing. Yeah, so belief and the idea that you will do anything to fit in. So when, I believe that there's absolutely all the possibility in the world that they weren't gay, that they just went with Joe because he had some money, because he had a home, because he could give them food, because he could give them sustenance. There's a thing called Maslow's hierarchy, a sort of psychological model, that you've got to have food, shelter, and water in order to attain the next level. And only when you've got the next level can you go to that level above. So Joe provides a lot of this stuff. And looking at the individuals, I honestly see no evidence where I could categorically say, no, these guys are lying, they're definitely gay. I actually believe them. Joe just provided something that almost a cult, if I can call it that. There was accommodation, there was food, there was reason, there was purpose. It gave them some motivation, ambition within their lives. So actually, I do believe the guys, yes.
Nice. All right, well, I want to get to some questions, and I'm going to have to look up if I've got any fresh ones. So while I'm looking that up, Daniels, if you want to start getting into some of the questions that you had submitted, and maybe, Bruce, before he gets into that, if you want to maybe in like 60 seconds or less, I know that's a tall order, to sort of say like body language reading 101, right?
Okay.
Like here's how you're being able to answer these questions based on you viewing these people on screen and their body language. Just sort of like a synopsis so people sort of know where you're coming from on that.
Yeah, cool. Okay, then. So the biggest thing, or some of the biggest things for body language is that what you're looking for is synchrony or congruence, all right? So what words are being offered and what is the body doing at that particular time? So, for example, if you were to say, Bruce, are you wearing a yellow top? And I was to say no, but my head was to go up and down, there wouldn't be congruence, there wouldn't be synchrony. My body is doing something there that doesn't match up with my language. But also it's what we call the T-junction, all right? What was that person doing at that particular time? Exactly when they said that word, and we give 2 seconds before, 2 seconds after, what were they doing? So, for example, if I was to say something and then scratch my cheek, based on what I said, I would be looking from a body language perspective, well, they've scratched their cheek there, so that's an irritant. It's different from a self-soothe, which is when you start stroking yourself. Everything that the body does is telling us what that person's really thinking inside their head. So when somebody says, oh, well, you know, from a body language perspective, they've itched their nose, they've scratched their face, you know, you can see them rubbing the back of the head. It's not just that they've got an itchy nose. It's not just that they've got a sore shoulder. It's because the language that they're using at that particular time, what did the body give off? And then we start going into that little bit deeper.
Got it. All right, guys, we're primed up. We're ready to go. Let's start with some of these questions here.
Am I going first?
Yeah.
Okay.
I only have I have a bunch, but they're all can be boiled down to two things. So I'll wait.
Okay. This one says, Carole always does this weird eye roll thing. Is it a sign she's lying?
Is it a sign she's lying? Well, again, from a body language perspective, you can never tell if somebody's lying or not just from what they do with their body. What you can say is that's uncommon, or they look to be uncomfortable. And you cannot move off that point and just zone in and keep asking questions until you expose more, Justin. But what Carole does do is this, it's a very theatrical, it's a very over-exaggerated eye roll. And because it's over-exaggerated, and she does it at points where it would be uncommon, like the context that she's talking about wouldn't be deserving of an eye roll. You know, her husband was missing, and she's talking about different things, and this sort of, I think there was one where they asked, did you have a memorial service? And again, she does this eye roll. And it's if she's injecting humor where humor wouldn't usually be, you know, you loved your husband's been missing for 5 years, he might be dead, he might be abducted, you know, he could be in Brazil in some, you know, favela as a sort of slave. We got no idea. But because the eye roll comes in and she tries to do it with humor behind it, it's very uncommon. And what I believe, again, I would love to ask her some questions just to fire her sympathetic nervous system, to fire that fight or flight mechanism so I could go in that a little bit harder. But I do think she's putting on a performance. I do think that she's trying to use humor in a way that she's over-exaggerating her behavior. And because she's over-exaggerating it, that's why we're noticing. So I can't say that she's lying, but what I can say, unequivocally, without question, it's uncommon behavior for what she's talking about. And I wouldn't be moving anywhere. I'd be wanting to know why she's over-exaggerating that behavior.
Awesome.
You see me eye roll just then? What
Am
you
I
got
doing
next?
I'm doing another one? Okay.
Yeah, no, you can do all yours. If it falls onto mine, then I'll forget about it.
I want to save that one till towards the end. That's another I question. This is more of a general question. Maybe you can kind of narrow it down a little bit, but what are the most typical and obvious signs someone is being deceitful?
Someone's being deceitful. Again, it's comfort versus discomfort. That's what we're looking for. The biggest one. So you've got universal giveaways, right? You've got universal and you've got idiosyncratic. So idiosyncratic would be something that you would personally do that I would pick up after analyzing your emotional baseline for a certain amount of time. So you made I would ask you certain questions to get you to think of something sad, something happy, something what I know you don't know, something that I know you do know, and I would ask a series of questions to see how your body reacts to that. One of the biggest universal giveaways is called the Pinocchio touch, all right? And this is where someone will just touch their nose, or they'll rub their nose, or they'll scratch their nose. That is one of the biggest clues that, again, I want to be specific here, that what they're seeing is not adding up to what's going on inside the head. Yeah? So the Pinocchio touch. Now, there is different theories as to why people touch their nose or rub their nose when they are being deceitful. Again, some people offer that there's a sort of rush of blood to the area that arouses the internal sort of nostril hair that makes it itchy. Again, you've got the orbital muscle within here as well. You get that sort of flushing with blood as well, that people rub their cheek in the sort of nose area. But you guys could eat Snickers all day or a chicken salad, and without knowing why, you just know that if you would eat 300 Snickers a day, you're going to get fat. You don't need to know the molecular structure and how it interacts with the body. you just know you're going to get fat. I know. I eat too many Snickers. I eat too many chocolate bars. So when someone rubs their nose, you don't need to know what's going on or what, is it itchy or there's too much blood flow. Without a shadow of a doubt, that there is one of the biggest signs that what they're saying might not be quite true. And again, this is something I get a lot on my channels and my social media platforms, is once I've raised your awareness to this, you'll be watching people, and as soon as you notice them doing something, yesterday, here in the UK, we have a chief medical officer that was discussing the pandemic, and he was discussing it on a sort of live feed to the nation, and he took his glasses off and he scratched his cheek, and the amount of messages that I got saying, Bruce, I noticed this guy scratching his cheek. It's like people are. So now the biggest thing, if I have to give an answer to your question, which I will, is just watch out when someone's speaking. And it tends to be if they're bigging themselves up. It tends to be if they're over-exaggerating. It tends to be if they're under pressure. Whatever answer they're giving will be accompanied by a little either touch of the nose, a rub of the nose, something like this. Yeah, don't move off that point. Because if I had to put my reputation on it, they're probably not telling the truth. I can't say they're not, but that's one of the biggest giveaways that it's never let me down. Zone in on that point there and ask them more about it.
I like it.
I'm scared to itch my nose right now.
Oh. You know what I really appreciate? I really appreciate government overreach during all this time of the pandemic and all the executive orders that are going out and all that stuff. And especially the leadership in the House right now. It's very inspiring. Okay. Back to Tiger King and body language. Well, I'll ask this one real quick. Someone said specifically Saf, was Saf the most honest person in there? Did anybody stand out, whether it was her or anybody in the show, where consistently as you watched it, you're like, man, this is the honest one. This person here is the one giving us the straight information about this. Yeah, sure.
So there was actually three people for me, Mike, three people that stood out. That, again, based on the limited data that we had in there. And remember, let's put this on the table. Let's acknowledge it because it gains credibility. Is that the Netflix team has purposely, within that episode, set out to create a narrative or heuristic bias, what it's called, or subconscious bias. That they give us certain data. You guys will know about this. That you look at a situation and you will give your own perspective on what you felt, what you smelled, heard, etc., how it's affected your senses. So the story that the Netflix team definitely wants us to believe is there's something going on with Carole there, 100%. But the three people, and it definitely was three, who I would think, okay, based on that one episode, who would I sit down and actually listen to and think this could be credible? Well, first, I think, was it Annie? Again, correct me on the names, but it was the Don's, so the missing husband's PA, secretary.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 100% I would listen to her. Very fair. I mean, even the starches, I really liked Carole because Don wasn't an easy man to get on with. Yeah. She was so emotionally stable throughout that program. I thought, yeah, she is definitely one.
She seems like she knows a lot more than even came out of the documentary. Maybe she said more that never made it to film, but you get this sense she was holding a lot of stuff back. Yes. That behind the veil exists.
Yeah, absolutely. But even with that, she was very measured. She was very calm. She was very specific, and she was very unemotional in her responses, such as when you've got that baseline where people are being calm, and she was, she wasn't over-exaggerating. She was coming up with some very specific, balanced answers. I thought, I would definitely have her in my investigation. Yeah, I would definitely have her in my investigation. And then you had Saf, and I thought Saf was balanced as well. She seemed very balanced. She seemed very calm. She didn't really have an agenda, or let's call it an ego. There was a definite lack of ego from Saf, and I thought, I know. She's been asked questions, and she's given what she feels is the honest truth to those type of answers.
She probably decided to just put it all out there. Once you lose an arm to a tiger, you just decide, absolutely. You know what? I'm just going to be honest from here on out about everything. I got nothing else to lose.
And then the third guy, the third person, Now again, please give me a nudge in the correct direction here, but he was some type of law enforcement. He was either FBI or he was slightly, so he was outside the local sheriff's department, and he was the guy who was getting interviewed. He had sort of three like faces on his wall, dark hair, about maybe 50 years old, but he was commenting on how the investigation should have been run and how they kept coming against brick walls because of how those guys had run the investigation locally. And when he was being asked questions, he was given very balanced. And again, you could see he's had the training and education. So when they were trying to push him for answers about, what would you say about Carole? Again, he was coming up with answers that I would give. Well, you don't know this, but you do know this. And well, that's not true, but I can say this. And that was one of the giveaways when Carole done her early, which again, I don't know if you guys are going to ask about it. And if so, I'll hold it back from there. But what she said and what this other guy said directly contradicted each other. And I thought that's something there that Carole is unaware of, that you've got an emotionally stable, unbiased person who's given very strategic and accurate answers is directly contradicted something that you've just said there. So, yeah, the secretary at SAF and the FBI guy or whatever, sort of department he was from.
Awesome. Yeah, great question and good answer. What's the next one?
All right. This one's going to kind of reverse what we're talking about. Is there any body language evidence that Carole did not kill her husband?
Well, again, I think we've got to be fair to Carole, and I think we've got to be authentic and balanced and say there's no body language that says she did kill her husband. Yeah, that is the balanced truth. There's stuff that she did that didn't add up, that was uncommon, where there wasn't synchrony, where, there was a fantastic one where she done some lip compression, which is where your body wants to say something, but you actually stop yourself, where she was saying to the news crew, I've never threatened my husband, and then immediately the lip compression come in. So there's loads of stuff that said she's got more to offer. But there were certain times where she was flown, where she didn't look under pressure, where her amygdala, her fight, flight, or freeze response wasn't kicking in. And that's when she was talking about the meat grinder. That's when she was talking about the septic tank. She seemed, again, based on the limited data here, that she was in her flow, that she wasn't being irritated by that. So on those occasions, I actually think she was being truthful because she seemed to flow quite steadily. There was a fluidity to the way that she was speaking. So again, there wasn't any body language that said she had killed her husband. There was just more to ask. But there was occasions here where actually she did seem to be truthful in what she was saying. But again, that doesn't mean that she didn't kill her husband.
Well,
awesome.
if people go back and watch your video, which again we're encouraging people to do, I would say that you make a connection between early interviews and later interviews, right?
Sure.
Like what's happening with the Netflix team versus footage that's brought into the documentary from before
sure.
the Netflix team, and you're comparing certain things there. So I'll let people go watch that. But what I'm curious about then is what would impact her body language if she had just become so used to answering the questions that had been repeated to her over the years, if it was truthful or if it was a lie, when it's just a rehearsed answer. So there's sort of like this, when I get asked this from people I don't know or trust, it's media, it's somebody, here's sort of like my answer. And you rehearse that over time. Do the tells, so to speak, of body language stay retained in that, or can you actually get better at lying and you lose the body language because you've told it so much?
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, there is definitely a possibility that you can become conditioned to that exposed, so people are asking you questions. What I would say here, though, is that what you've got is a situation, so everybody within every situation, Mike, has got an emotional baseline. Now, this could be me and you two guys having a beer and we're talking about something. In that situation, we'll have an emotional baseline. Now, this could be if you guys have arrested somebody, take them away, other law enforcement has arrested somebody, you've got them in the questioning cell or whatever you guys call it across in the States. You'll still have an emotional baseline, but it will be an emotional baseline for that particular situation. Yeah. So you'll still have a number. Now, it might be different from your emotional baseline that you've got in the bar, having a chat with the guys and a beer, but you'll still have an emotional baseline. But what we've got here is that Carole knows that this is going on Netflix. She knows, look, she's been briefed. How had her husband told her that this could be the Blackfish of the sort of tiger world? Yeah. So although she's become conditioned, and she absolutely has, it's a performance, it's a narrative, it flows the certain answers that she gives that you can tell that she's said it 1,000 times before. But the kicker here, the interesting point, is that because I believe, and again, I don't know that, I would have to get in front of Carole and ask her questions to, elicit certain emotions that I could then zone in on. But what you've got with Carole is that, she's in front of a news crew. Yeah. Now, she may have said this conversations to people face to face. Yeah. So you'll know this, as well as me, being YouTubers and social media presence, is that even when you turn your camera on and start speaking into your phone or to try to create a video, it's different than just speaking to your pal. It's different than speaking to your friend or even speaking out loud. Because when you turn that camera on, you start telling yourself different stories. And that's the beautiful thing that we see here, is that Carole is over-exaggerating her conditioned responses. Her emotional baseline is higher. She's given higher energy, higher answers. It's that everything is over-exaggerated because she's now got that camera crew in front of her, and she knows that this is going worldwide. And it's interesting, remember, there's 7 episodes. I think the 8th episode is being released tomorrow. Is that when she starts giving answers that do not involve what happened with your missing husband, were you involved with that? Is that she's very calm, she's very fluid, she flows very well. But when she's asked questions in episode 3 about her missing husband, boom, we've got it. Everything is exaggerated. That uncommon laugh is louder, it's present more. This performance of the rolling eyes, it's all there on a higher basis than it is throughout the episode when it's not about her missing husband. So that's when you can start looking into it. So although over years she will have become conditioned to it, what we've got is called situational dependency here. It's that situation where now you've got a camera crew in front of you, it's different to how she's been doing it for years. And that's when you start to notice the sort of TV interviews. And again, they are old. But even the early in the interview from years gone by, and I take it that's from when a husband first disappeared, to what it's got now, that gives you an emotional baseline that you can compare. And that's some of the stuff that I managed to pick apart. So the answer to your question, yes, you can condition yourself. But when that situation changes, which is what we see with the Netflix questions, it's all there. Her energy is one of the biggest exposures of there's something else going on inside their head, mate.
Gotcha. Makes sense.
Awesome. All right. I think we'll finish with this one. And it's the big one, Bruce. With the limited information you gathered from the Netflix series, based on your expert opinion, do you think Carole had anything to do with her husband's disappearance?
What I will say is that with the data that we've got, forget everybody else, all right? And I want to get this across to you guys. I want this, to sort of get across to your viewers, because everything else. So what Don's ex-wife said, what Don's daughters say, what the secretary says, what the handyman says, and what everybody, that episode 3 take everything else that every single person has said. Okay, so we're not looking at heuristic bias here. We're not being influenced by our conscious or subconscious bias. I'm not interested in the 95% of the program of that episode, based on Carole and Carole alone, on how she reacted to the questions during her interviews, early interviews, more recent interviews, what she was saying, when she was saying it, how she was behaving, the performance she was giving off, the words that she was using, and what her body was or was not doing at that particular time. 100% Carole Baskin knows more than she is giving away.
That fucking bitch. Damn.
That is something that I can tell. Whether or not, I can say that she's had something to do with the husband's disappearance, I can't say that. I can't say whether or not she killed her husband. I can't say that. But 100% without any shadow of a doubt, unequivocally, and I'm being very specific here, Carole Baskin knows more than she is letting on, because all biology doesn't lie. Yeah, biology doesn't lie. And notice, I'm not saying she's guilty or she's not guilty. What I am saying is the body language, it cannot be, it can't be argued with. She has got more in her head than she's offered to do. And that's why I would love to get her sitting in front of me to ask her questions. From where her body language was giving those little tells away to zone in. But that's what I do. I zone in on those particular issues. I don't move forward. I'm going to dig that little bit deeper, right at that point there, until she starts to tell me exactly what's going on inside of her head.
That makes sense. My last question is, should I be concerned that my wife in the garage has a shelf of sardine oil? I don't know what it seems like. That's only happened since the show. I mean, we don't normally eat that. I don't. So is that a concern, do you think, for me?
Well, I think it's with the sort of, the dynamite in the sort of matchstick.
What question could I ask her to know if she's planning something nefarious? I need to know I got to know the right words.
I think the observation you should be looking for is if one day you wake up and the sardine oil is gone, but there's a tiger in your living room. That's when I'll be really worried.
I won't be living the hangover. I'll be living Oh my gosh. Bruce, where can people find you? I already named the video. Again, it's called Body Language. Did Tiger King Carole Baskins kill her husband? Look for it on YouTube. Where else can they find you if they want to see your past work and what you're going to be doing in the future?
Yeah, sure. So YouTube's my biggest platform. Thanks very much for that, Mike. It's Believe in Bruce. Well, there's a whole range of body language videos on there as well. And also Instagram is my platform that I tend to use just for interacting with my followers and fans, etc. And that is Believe in Bruce 360. That's Believe in Bruce 360. And what I would say, if any of your followers or social media fans get in contact with you, or indeed me, with other examples of body language that they would go into, from a sort of stateside basis. I'm getting flooded at the moment over the past week, and I don't know why. For some reason, to look into Neverland and the body language of the people who were interviewed from there. So if there's anything that you guys are particularly interested in, I absolutely love the energy from here. So the chemistry is fantastic. Give you guys some messages, send it to me, and then we'll do something further. Because again, love working with guys from the States. The energy level is just different.
What was the original one with Martin Bashir? Was that called Neverland, or there was a separate interview series with Martin Bashir, wasn't there? That came out before Neverland.
And that was aired a number of years ago. I'm not sure of the title, but again, that's something that I had about 3 or 4 messages last week saying you need to go recover this. And that's the beautiful thing about body language, is that you can actually go retro. You can go back in the archives, because there's loads of stuff now that body language is coming more into the arena as a sort of credible tool, because of being fair and balanced and not giving big statements, but saying at that moment there, I would like to ask some more questions. Is that I'm sure there's hundreds of videos that us guys could look into to sort of generate fantastic content for your fans.
What a cool topic, and I could see a huge advantage for prosecution teams to be utilizing someone like you to come in and help them identify where they need to dig deeper.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where are some of their witnesses needing to be shored up or pushed further, or all that stuff. So pretty. Well,
it's as if there's actually where I'm used to. I go all over the globe teaching body language as part of my emotional intelligence training, and what you've got in certain situations is, like, for example, if you're doing an interview, because you're trying to think of the next question, you're not really looking at the person and taking all of that information in. Whereas if you've got somebody like me to the side who's supporting that, all I'm doing is watching you. I've got no questions to ask. I'm just analysing your body language there. That's really where something that, as part of the approach, rather than the approach. But yeah, stuff like accident investigations I'm utilised across here in the UK. And what's really interesting is that I don't come from a perspective of I need to find out if they're lying or not. What I'm looking for is if what they're saying is not matching up with their body language. I'm thinking, well, why don't they feel that they've got the safety to offer what's going on inside their head? And because I don't come from an angle of I'm going to prove you're guilty, as in I want them to be guilty, because I'm more open to what's really going on, that's when you tend to notice a lot more body language that actually, if they are guilty, you can start stacking that against them.
Nice. Well, thank you for hanging out with us. You got anything else, Daniels?
No, I'm excited to get this out on the internet. I know people are excited to see what you had to say. So thank you for giving us the opportunity to talk to you.
No, thank you very much, gentlemen. The pleasure's been all mine.
Love it. Thanks, Bruce. We'll talk soon, I'm sure.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.